Shannon Rowbury of the United States shows world-class form and grace.
But what I did do was focus on what I was passionate about, where my skills were.
You never want to leave it to chance like that, so I made it up to 5th and moving on to the finals, so I'm very pleased.
We're here for the same reasons, and I love it.
Hey everyone, Jamie here. Welcome to Flame Bearers Unedited, a brand new series bringing to you largely unedited conversation. We heard you loud and clear. You want to hear more stories of more elite women athletes from around the world. So we're going to deliver. In Unedited, we're going to bring you completely unfiltered conversations. We hit start, we have our conversation, we hit end. What we're going to see, though, is slightly different because we're not going to have all the traditional bells and whistles that you're used to in Flame Bearers production. So let's jump in.
My name is Shannon Rowbury. I'm a 3-time Olympian in track and field, women's 1500, and an Olympic bronze medalist in that event.
Catch us up to speed. I know you've been up to a lot since you retired. What have you mostly been up to?
So my last pro race was in 2021, and it took me a bit to kind of find my way back into sport. I think I needed a little space from it to kind of realize what I loved about it. From a running perspective, it's just running for fun. I did my first marathon in New York, this past New York Marathon, which was really exciting. I had a chance to run with New York Roadrunners and Team Abbott. The crowd showed up for that event, as did the weather. So that was amazing. And it was probably the first race I've ever done where I didn't have a place or time goal and I could just look up, smile, and take in what an incredible experience it is to be part of this running community. And on the work front, about a year ago, I started a consulting business with USA Track and Field board member Bob West. He has 30 years in cybersecurity. So we do go-to-market strategy for earlier stage cybersecurity companies based on his experience. And for my part, I come in and work with leaders, whether they be in cybersecurity or global pharmaceuticals, to speak on leadership and more specifically this idea of a medalist mindset, which is taking athlete sports performance tools that Olympians use to be successful and applying them towards business and life goals.
You mentioned that this race was pivotal for you because you had to figure out why you wanted to run now, that this was about you. So for athletes who are maybe taking a break after they've just stepped away, what helped you reconnect to your why now that you're in a different phase?
Yeah, it took me a bit, as I shared. So when I stopped competing, there was this identity crisis of who am I if not an athlete? My identity had been defined. I started running at 14, so my identity had been defined for so long by what I did. And that space from sport allowed me to really reflect on what it was that I loved about running. And ultimately, it was, I would say, 2 main things. From a personal standpoint, the opportunity to move my body, clear my thoughts. You know, I say I meditate through movement. And so my runs when I'm alone are that chance for me to really kind of come into myself. And then on the other aspect, the community of running, that was the other part that really drew me in. When I was postpartum with my second son, I started working with the San Francisco State team. In fact, I'd started working with them prior to pregnancy, but it was those people who showed up every day, not because they had a scholarship, most of them didn't, not because they were paid, not for any reason other than they loved the sport, they loved being together, and they wanted to see how they could improve themselves and go after goals. And for me, the running community is an incredible collection of eclectic people, but we're all united by this desire to challenge ourselves for better. And I don't know what's not to love about that.
I absolutely love that. And I think those are 2 really important points that will help people as they are beginning to think about kind of their next steps. Talk to us about the Medalist Mindset.
Yeah, I created it with Lauren Gibbs. She's a bobsled silver medalist, and we had worked together at a sports tech startup. And even though we had moved on to other roles after that job, we stayed in touch and we kept having these conversations about how the tools that had helped us be successful at the Olympics were so applicable to the business space. And yet so many of the kind of self-help or performance toolkits in business are written by either academics or by a lot of military veterans, but they weren't necessarily leveraging those sports performance tools that are somewhat of a newer development. I mean, I think when I started using sports psychology in college in the kind of early to mid 2000s or early 2000s to 20 teens, it was a newer thing. And I think we've had more visibility and more conversations around how these tools have helped athletes handle the pressure, but they haven't necessarily been translated into business. And so we really wanted to distill them down into some kind of key tools that others could leverage, put those tools together in a step-by-step process for those who wanted it to sort of wrap their heads around how to set a goal all the way to going after it. And the most fun part was that Lauren and I came from such different backgrounds. I ran in high school and college, signed right out of college for a pro contract. Lauren decided to start competing in the bobsled at age 30. Yet we both went on to the Olympics to get medals and had these really core points that served us both. And so it was fun really finding where that overlap was, because we felt like that was the secret sauce to be able to share with others.
Oh, you're being very humble. I believe you were a 3-time Olympian, was a Olympic bronze medalist, 2-time world bronze medalist. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Very humble. So, and I'm sure we can't do justice to, everything that you're talking about in regards to these tools in a short conversation. But for people who are listening, who want to get a little bit of a preview, what are some of those tools that you're referencing? And how could they employ them perhaps in their everyday life?
We had 5 keys to a medalist mindset. We put them in the order of goals, foundation, mind, routine, and team. The first 3 are internal. So very much this idea of what's your why? What goal are you going to set? The reason behind that. And kind of foundations is really about before you even set out on a journey to achieve a goal, doing the self-reflection, doing that root cause analysis to kind of figure out the things that have gotten in your way in the past or that might get in your way in the future, and starting to address them at the outset so that you minimize the risk of setbacks as you move forward. And then from mind, how do you control the controllables? Focus on in that moment what you can do to give yourself the best chance of success. And then routine and team are the external oriented tools, because you can't ultimately achieve a goal without bringing it out into the world. But when you bring things out into the world, chaos can ensue. And so with routine, we talk about the fact that everybody has the same 24 hours, but some seem to use them better than others. And how can you really take ownership of that time you have each day to make sure that you're using it in a way that you're aware of and a way that you feel is helping you achieve what you want to. And then ultimately, team is all about, who are the people that you surround yourself with? How do you communicate that goal? How do you have those hard conversations with the people that were important before, but maybe aren't right for the path moving forward? And then ultimately, it kind of turns into a flywheel, because that team is your first line of defense when there's a problem. They're also the ones that challenge you when it comes towards what's that goal you've set. If a setback occurs, you kind of go right back to the start and begin the process again.
So what are your hopes for the future of this consulting company?
It's a great question. So we're about a year old in terms of West Strategy Group and me working with Bob West, although I've known him since 2017 and he was my mentor actually as I was kind of starting in that transition post competition. I think for me, the opportunity to grow the keynote that I deliver, which is around Medalist Mindset, overlaid with some, just personal experiences to try to help make it more relatable. I've been able to start doing more leadership workshops, and that's an opportunity for me to take that overview concept, but then start to really work closely with teams, with organizations to help them achieve sort of performance optimization. I mean, I really feel like the sports performance tools that athletes use are all about how to achieve a goal, success-oriented performance optimization at its core. And it's been really fun in the workshops that I've done to see these aha moments, whether it's, just a closeness amongst the team as a team within a company gets to know each other better, or the establishment of a goal in a world that can seem so chaotic that we don't normally make space to even be reflective and to be visionary. I usually think of goals in 1 year, 3 to 5 year, and 10 year. For me, that kind of 3-year goal is to increase the partnerships that I have doing these workshops and hopefully take this workbook that we've created for Medalist Mindset and turn it into a book with Lauren where we're able to not only talk about these keys, but share stories from the different individuals we've worked with and how they've been applicable outside of sport. I think that would be a really exciting thing to be able to do.
You have achieved the dream, at least the dream that so many youth have. What advice would you give to your younger self? So say younger Shannon was listening in. What would you say to her?
When it comes to setting a goal, I never dreamed I would be an athlete. In fact, if you had asked me if I'd be an athlete, I would have absolutely said no. But that was because for me in the 80s and 90s growing up, the role models of athletes that I saw were incredible NFL, NBA, and MLB players. And so I was impressed by their accomplishments, but I didn't see my future in them because I didn't look like them. But what I did do was focus on what I was passionate about, where my skills were, and more importantly, was willing to put in the work each day to try to achieve them. So I would say what my mom told me as a kid, I would continue to say to little me, which was do what you love, work hard, and success will find you, because that passion is necessary to really ultimately put in the work required to be the best.
That's such a great reminder and something that everyone can learn from. Last question that we like to end on is, what is one action you want our community to take? So we now have listeners in 57 countries around the world. Many Olympians, retired Olympians, want to be aspiring Olympians and Paralympians, people who just love to support women's sports. What one action do you want to request that they take?
Ooh, I love it. Okay, I know I'm going to come up with like something really profound later, but what I would say when it comes to taking action, the way that I've always tried to think about it is to know what's needed, you need to exist in a space. And so for me, as a female athlete, it was through working through the hardships that I encountered when I became pregnant and I had no maternity protections, and sharing those observations with others and building allies that I was ultimately able to work with Rose Monday and create the first ever NGB maternity policy within the United States. And it wasn't like I set out to do something noble. It was necessity kind of created that opportunity. But I guess I would say to everybody, as you're thinking of taking action, it doesn't have to necessarily be way far out from where you're at right now. Just look around you, understand where the pinch points are, where the opportunities for improvement are, and then invest in sharing that need, making those allies, and just trying to move the needle even just a little bit, because that can set off this, ripple effect, this butterfly effect that ultimately can have a huge positive impact.
Well, thank you for the ripple effect and the butterfly effect that you have created.
Thank you. The same. Yay. We're here for the same reasons, and I love it.
Thanks for tuning in to Flame Bearers Unedited. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a positive review on your favorite podcasting platform or YouTube. If you want to see more behind the scenes coverage, follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, whatever platform you're on, we're there too. Thanks, and we'll catch you on our next episode.